Hello all, my name is Sanjay from lawmin.com. Welcome to part 2 of this 10-part video series, and in this part we will be covering passages 3 and 4 of the CLAT PG 2021 question paper and the 12 questions that are associated with this passage. So let us get started. Passage 3 is from a landmark Supreme Court case from the year 2020. I have not specifically mentioned the name of the case here, even though I have mentioned it in the index, because one of the questions is asking us to identify the name of this particular case. The length of this passage is 216 words, a fairly short passage, so you can either pause the video here and read the passage that you can see on the screen, or preferably go to lawmin.com, where we have published the entire question paper in the form of articles, and you can read the passage and come back to the questions. Question number 13 is asking us, which of the following judgments relating to the equality of opportunity for women seeking permanent commission in the Indian Army is this excerpt taken from? Now, I have classified this as a direct question because if you read through the question, it's clearly talking about the Indian Army, and one of the answer options clearly mentions Ministry of Defense. So you should be able to easily correlate that this is the most probable answer option. Here, answer C is the correct option. So this is one of those kind of direct questions where the answer is not available in the passage, but it is available within the answer options. Question number 14. Based on the given excerpt from a judgment, which of the following was not a direction given by the Supreme Court of India? So let me just start with re-emphasizing on the fact that you should pay attention to the question, because if you skip reading this not, then one of the other answers will be the correct answer. But the addition of this not is asking us to identify the incorrect statement from among the options. Now this question, even though I have mentioned it as a generic question, probably this is mostly a generic and a case-based question, because this question can be answered easily if you are aware of the specifics of the Babita Punia case, or it can also be answered through your awareness of what the Short Service Commission is all about. Now, Short Service Commission is the option of joining the army and serving as a commissioned officer for a period of 10 years, after which either elect for a permanent commission or opt out. Those who are not selected for permanent commission have the option of a 4-year extension. Now, with this information in mind, when we read through the answer options, we can see that the first option, that is option A, is talking about women officers with more than 12 years. So this doesn't match with the information that we know about Short Service Commission. Therefore, option A is incorrect. The other way of answering this is, if you were to be familiar with the specifics of the case, you can see that options B, C and D are mentioned in the judgment, and they are directions given by the Supreme Court. But option A is not something that is specifically a directive of the Supreme Court. Therefore, this is the correct answer here. Question number 15. That women officers would upset the dynamics in a unit is A or an dash ground for denying them permanent commission. So we are supposed to select one of the options here. Now I have classified this as a direct question because if you read the passage, there is a part which says that to deny the grant of permanent commission to women officers on the ground that this would upset the peculiar dynamics in a unit casts undue burden on women officers, which has been claimed as a grounds for excluding women. So now, if you look at the phrasing of this particular sentence, it talks about some peculiar dynamics which casts an undue burden. Therefore, this can best support the assertion that this is an unreasonable ground. Therefore, option C is the correct option. If you look at the other answer choices, is the exclusion of women and denying them permanent commission an inevitable option? Definitely not. Is it a very strong ground for this particular type of exclusion? No. And is it a valid reason as mentioned by the Supreme Court? Obviously not. Therefore, the Supreme Court is saying that this sort of a discrimination is unreasonable. Therefore, option C is the correct option, and this is a direct question. Question number 16. Which of the following judgments is not related to equality of opportunity in matters of public employment as guaranteed by the Constitution of India? So there have been a series of cases which have essentially been about the process of reservation in India, either reservation in jobs or reservation in education or reservation in terms of employment opportunities. Now, this question is asking us to identify which of the given options is not a reservation related case. Now, this case is a general awareness case because this information is not specifically mentioned within the passage. Now, if I were to look at this sort of a question, then the best option would be to start by eliminating some of the most obvious answer choices so that the chances of you selecting an answer, a correct answer, even if you select one randomly, should be maximized. Now, if I were to blindly select one option from among the four, the chances of my selecting a correct option would be 25%. Now, the Indra Sani case is something that most law students will be familiar with because this is the 50% reservation cap case, which is also known as the Mandal case. Therefore, we can start off by eliminating this as an answer choice. When we eliminate one option, our probability of selecting a right answer goes up to 33.33%. Next, the M. Nagaraj case was a case which dealt with the reservation in promotions. So this is also something which most law students should be aware of. Therefore, the M. Nagaraj versus Union of India is a case which we can eliminate. Now, the probability of selecting a right answer has gone up to 50% because we just have to select one answer from among the two remaining options. Now, the Jayashree Lakshman Rao Patil case is also the case that dealt with the Maharashtra SCBC Act of 2018, which essentially tried to reserve 16% of jobs and opportunities for the Maratha community. This particular case was in the news, but the title of the case might not have been so famous even if the issues that are debated in this case have been highlighted in various news articles. If you are able to identify this case, you can eliminate this also as an answer option. That leaves us with one option, that is the Nisha Priya Bhatia versus Union of India case. Now, this particular case was where an officer who was in the RAW, that is Research and Analysis Wing, had filed a case with regards to harassment by her colleagues and superiors. So this would be a POSH related case, that is prevention of sexual harassment in the workplace. Therefore, this is not a employment opportunity related case. Therefore, the correct answer here is option D. Based on the given excerpt, which of the following is correct regarding the blanket restriction of women officers in the army? Now, pay close attention to the fact that 3 of the statements have a specific aspect which you should focus on. The first option says equality should not ensure that where there is an action of the state does differentiate between two classes of person. So equality should ensure. The addition of this not makes this an incorrect statement. Therefore, this can be eliminated. Option C says where the army is an instrumentality of the state and differentiates between women and men, the burden does not fall on the army to justify such a differentiation with reason. So now, if there is a differentiation that is being done between men and women, then the differentiation should be justified with a valid and logical reason. So the burden does fall on the army. By the addition of this not, this statement has become incorrect. Option D says an absolute bar on women seeking criteria or command appointments would comply with the guarantee of equality under Article 14. So how would an absolute bar comply with the guarantee of equality? Therefore, this statement doesn't make sense. So this can be eliminated. Thus leaves us that leaves us with one answer choice, that is option B, which says that an absolute bar on women seeking criteria or command appointments would not comport with the guarantee of equality under Article 14. So option B is essentially the opposite of option D, and option B is the correct statement here. Question number 18 is a fairly long question. It has given a small paragraph and it is asking us to identify which of the following cases this particular paragraph has been taken from, that is in which of the following cases the above observation was made. Now, I've classified this as a general awareness question because this information is not available within the passage. Now, if we read through the given information, the unrelenting continuation of this immoral practice, the globally shared understanding that it constitutes a form of violence against women and its potential to damage the very fabric of gender equality and dignity that forms the bedrock of our constitution are all factors that categorically establish prenatal sex determination as a grave offense with serious consequences for the whole society or the society as a whole. Now, this entire passage is talking about prenatal sex determination. So we have to identify which of the following cases, which of these 4 cases is a case that deals with this specific topic. Now, as I have mentioned earlier, when we come across a question like this, the best approach is to start off by eliminating some of the obviously incorrect answer choices, because when we start off with selecting one option out of 4, it gives us a 25% probability of selecting a right answer. When we eliminate one option, our probabilities goes up to 33.33%. If we can eliminate 2 answer choices, our probability will go up to 50%. Therefore, the objective here is to eliminate as many answer choices as possible. Now, the Amish Devgan case was in the news in 2021 because it was a case about hate speech and defamation, and how the laws related to hate speech or defamation are being misused by the state machinery. Therefore, this particular case was in the news, and if you are aware of this, you can start off by eliminating this from among the answer options. The S. Vanitha case was also in the news in 2020. This was a case which dealt with the Domestic Violence Act and the Senior Citizens Act, and it was a case where there was a discussion about how senior citizens should be protected and the children should have some sort of a responsibility towards their parents. Therefore, this case was in the news, and this also can be eliminated from the answer options. That leaves us with the Rekha Sengar case and the Mamta Sahu case. Interestingly, both these cases dealt with similar topics. The Rekha Sengar case was about illegal ultrasound and female feticide, and the Mamta Sahu case dealt with the prohibition of the Sex Selection Act, which again ties back to illegal ultrasounds and female feticide. Therefore, we have to select which of these 2 cases is the correct answer. Even if we have reached up to this stage, the probability of even selecting an answer, a correct answer, even by random choice, is now at 50%. Now, if you are aware of the specifics of this case, you can identify that this particular paragraph has been taken from the Rekha Sengar versus State of Madhya Pradesh case from 2021. So, option C is correct here. 4 is from a case called D.B. Basnet versus the Collector of East District, Gangtok, Sikkim, and this is a case from 2020. The length of this particular passage is pretty close to the average length across this entire question paper. At 273 words, it is quite close to the 250 words average, as I have mentioned in terms of the passages in this question paper. You can stop the video here and read the passage, or you can download a PDF copy of the question paper, or read the complete question paper on lawman.com, and then we can move on to the questions. Question number 19 is asking us to identify that the right to property ceased to be a fundamental right by which of these constitutional amendments. Now, as I have mentioned in part 1, you should not only solve as many comprehension based mock tests as possible, you should also solve the old pattern mock tests and the previous papers. The reason is, this question has appeared in some of the other LLM entrance exams, and this is also there in the database for the non-CLAT PG pattern LLM entrance exams. Therefore, solving the old pattern mock test would help you identify that the correct answer to this is the 44th amendment. And this is a fairly popular question which has been repeated multiple times in the past and will be repeated again in the future in some form or the other. Now, the 44th Amendment of the Constitution of 1978 removed the right to property from the list of fundamental rights. However, Article 300A was also added, which essentially provided that no person will be deprived of his property but with the authority of law. So the correct answer here is option D, which is the 44th Amendment. I have classified question number 20 as a case-based question as well as a general awareness question. The reason is, if you were to read the entire D.B. Basnet case in its all its details, then you will find that the N. Padmamma versus S. Ramakrishna Reddy case has been mentioned in one of the footnotes of the case. So if you paid a lot of attention and noticed and remembered all the footnotes and the references, then you will be able to identify this particular case and select it as the correct answer. So this would be a case-based question. But for all practical purposes, this is more of a general awareness question, given the fact that even if you had read the DB Bassnet case, the probability is that you might not have paid attention to the footnotes and the references. Therefore, it might not be a fully case-based question. It is more of a general awareness question, because if you are aware of the details of the N. Padmamma versus Ramakrishna Reddy case, which is one of the landmark cases with regards to the right to property and Article 300A, you would be able to identify this. This is the correct answer here. Question number 21 is a general awareness question. The question is asking us that the right to property is a basic human right, and which of the following statements is true regarding human rights. Now, if you read through all the given options, then you can see that since all of them are talking about human rights, you should have a good understanding of what human rights are all about, and on the basis of that general awareness, you will be able to answer this question. Now, human rights are not granted by any human authority, such as a government or a statutory body. Hence, they are not the same as civil rights or constitutional rights or statutory rights. And constitutional rights are guaranteed or granted to individuals by virtue of their citizenship or residence in a particular country, whereas human rights are universal and they are inherent and held as attributes of the basic human personality. Now that we have an understanding of what human rights are all about, let's look at the answer options. The first option A says, human rights have been considered in the realm of individual rights, such as the right to shelter, livelihood, health, employment, etc. This statement is absolutely correct, because this is what human rights are all about. Therefore, this is a correct statement. Now, option B says that human rights have gained a multifaceted dimension. This is also correct, because if you were to look at the details given in option A itself, it's clearly talking about the right to shelter, livelihood, health, employment. So option A actually supports option B, that human rights have gained a multifaceted dimension. Now option C is saying that human rights are statutory rights. Now this is something which we have already read, that human rights, since they are not actually granted by any government or under any statute, they are not statutory rights. Therefore, option C is incorrect. Since both A and B are correct, option D would be the most correct option here. Question number 22 is asking us for the definition of the term eminent domain. Now, I have classified this as a direct question and a general awareness question. Now, the term eminent domain is quite frequently in the news, because with all the land acquisition that goes on for the highways or for other mega industrial projects or for mining purposes, this eminent domain is something that is mentioned in various articles and has been mentioned in various cases, and the power of eminent domain has been used by the government quite frequently. So, if you are aware of the concept of eminent domain, you should be able to identify which of the correct given options is the correct definition of this term. This is also a direct question, because there is a part of the passage which supports the correct answer, and this is also a direct question, because if you just read the other answer options, that is A, B and D, you'll be able to eliminate them as answer choices. So there are essentially three ways of answering this question. So as I mentioned, if you are aware of the concept of general awareness, you'll be able to directly identify that option C, which says that the power of the sovereign to take property for public use without the owner's consent and upon payment of a just compensation. This is the definition of the term eminent domain. And this is also supported by the passage which reads, the state in exercise of its power of eminent domain may interfere with the right of property of a person by acquiring the same, but the same must be for a public purpose, and a reasonable compensation must be paid. Therefore, this directly supports option C. Now let's look at the third way of answering this question. If we were to evaluate each of these options one by one, we see that the first one says the power of the sovereign to take public property for public use with the owner's consent upon payment of a just compensation. If it is with the owner's consent, then the exercise of eminent domain is not required at all. Therefore, the mention of with the owner's consent makes this an incorrect statement. Option B says the power of the sovereign to take public property for private use. Now, public property for private use does not fall under the exercise of eminent domain, going by the definition and going by what is mentioned in the passage. Therefore, we can eliminate this. Option D says the power of the sovereign to take property for public use with the owner's consent upon the payment of just compensation. Now, here, if again it's with the owner's consent, then it is not the exercise of the power of eminent domain. So this also can be eliminated. That leaves us with option C as the only correct statement among the given choices. Question number 23 is asking us, according to which of the following jurists, property is the objective manifestation of the personality of an individual? Now I've classified this as a general awareness question because to answer this question you'll need to be familiar with the works and the theories or the concepts proposed by various personalities from the field of jurisprudence such as John Austin, Hegel, Bentham and Pound. Now the correct option here is Friedrich Hegel. So if you are familiar with the theory proposed by Hegel, you'll be able to identify that in Hegel's view, property was an extension of personality. Ownership expanded the natural sphere of freedom from the individual beyond his body as a part of the material world. And Hegel's conception of property as an extension of personality has been adopted and extended by number of modern theorists. So even though other theorists in the field of jurisprudence may have talked about a similar concept, they are essentially building on what was originally proposed by Hegel. Therefore, the answer choice B is correct here. I've classified question number 24 as both a direct question and a general awareness question. The reason it is a general awareness question is because this can be answered on the basis of your knowledge or your awareness of the various fundamental rights that are mentioned in the Constitution, and you can evaluate the answer options and select the correct answer. It is also a direct answer because by reading the passage and identifying which parts of the passage support some of the answer choices, and also by reading the answer choices themselves, you'll be able to easily identify the correct answer. Now, the options are that right to property is recognized as part and parcel of the right to life and personal liberty. Now, right to life and personal liberty are essentially fundamental rights, and right to property is not a fundamental right because as we saw in one of the previous questions, it was earlier a fundamental right and it has been taken out. Therefore, it is not a part and parcel of right to life and personal liberty. Therefore, this is an incorrect statement. Right to property is recognized as a part and parcel of the right to carry on any occupation, trade or business. So this again, the right to carry on any occupation, trade or business is a fundamental right guaranteed by the Constitution. Therefore, right to property cannot be a part of that. So we can eliminate this as well. And the right to property is an inalienable right. So this also is an incorrect option because the government can exercise the right of eminent domain and dispossess people if the land is to be acquired for a public purpose, and of course some compensation will be paid. Therefore, the statement that right to property is inalienable is incorrect. So this also can be eliminated. Now, option C says right to property is not a basic feature of the Constitution of India. This is a correct statement. When we read through the passage, we'll also find that there are sentences which say that the right to property ceased to be a fundamental right. However, it continued to be a human right in a welfare state and a constitutional right under Article 300A of the Constitution. Therefore, it clearly says that right to property cannot be a part of right to life and personal liberty, and it is not a part of the right to carry on any occupation, trade or business. Therefore, it is saying that right to property is not a fundamental right. And another part of the passage says that the state cannot dispossess a citizen of his property except in accordance with the procedure established by law, which means that the state can dispossess a person from his property if it is for a public purpose. And there are other terms and conditions which apply. Therefore, the right of property is an inalienable right. This is also expressly not supported by this part of the passage. That leaves us with option C as the correct answer here. With that, we come to the end of this part of the video series. I will see you again in the next part where we will be covering the next two passages from the CLAT PG 2021 question paper. please go to lawment.com and try the free demo mock tests, and you will have a number of options to buy mock test series and previous question paper series for various popular LLM entrance exams, including the CLAT PG, ILET PG, IIT KGP LLM, DU LLM, BHU LLM, and other popular LLM entrance exams. You will also find mock test and previous question paper series for UGC NET Law paper 2. I will see you again in the next part of this video series. Till then, take care.